Welcome to a football show, Thursday edition, back in the saddle. He is Zach Lyons. I am Braden Gall, back from wandering around in the southern Appalachian Mountains. Zach, my soul is refreshed. I'm a Titans free agent version of Thoreau at this point on the show. That's how I feel. I've touched some grass. I've looked at clouds. Maybe I yelled at them, but we're back and better than ever. Special thanks to Stoney Keeley from the Sobros Network for hanging out with you guys on Monday. So let's have a big show today. All right. What is next? What's coming up next? What are the next moves for the Tennessee Titans after legal tampering has taken place and some new names have shown up? Some old names have left. We're going to get to all of that, of course. You have an interesting theory about some defensive players in the draft that you think Titans fans need to hear. So we'll tell you guys about that. Kevin Byard, of course, all throughout the rumor mill. What's our heat check here on the glow up versus the blow up? For those that do not know, the glow up is Zach Lyons' term for you go to the salon, you get a glow up. The roster's getting a bit of a glow up with Ran Carthon in charge. Has the front seven improved with a couple of departures and a couple of guys that have shown up that Ran has decided to bring in? The projected offensive line, what does that tell us about the Titans' strategy of building a roster? Draft strategy as well, how it's impacted by all these free agents things, and of course, just some general free agency fallout. But make sure you check out our great and wonderful and amazing sponsor, the Kingston Group. BuildKG.com is the website, Nashville's locally owned custom home and remodeling firm. And Zach, there is news matriculating.
Matriculating. That's a word not often used. I like it.
Yes, it's basically Todd Downing's first down offense is what the news is doing, slowly but surely working through the pipes. And we will have an announcement for you guys on Monday. How about that?
It's slowly working like Todd Downing's offense, but it's gonna end up being Art Smith's offense. Yes. So let's make sure we clarify what's happening. I mean,
yes.
Like you really like big news. Todd Downing.
Well,
that does not coalesce.
No, I see what you're saying. The breaking of the news is like Todd Downing's offense.
Yeah.
The news itself will be like Jonnu Smith paired with Art Smith.
There you go.
There's a couple of Smiths.
Except for the new Jonnu Smith, Art Smith pairing which will amount to nothing.
I don't know. They love each other. They're very close. They have lots of relationships.
That's fine. I mean, still not going to mean anything.
So if you want to get into the comments, of course, you have any questions for us, Donnie's already in there hanging out, so make sure you jump in there, rate, review, subscribe, share the show, subscribe to stackingtheinbox.com if you want to track all this free agency stuff and you want to know where all these players rank, where they have their PFF grades, how well they run block, how well they pass Brock. Pass Brock. How well they pass Brock. Go check out Stacking the Inbox. Of course, he's got all kinds of cool cheat sheets in there for you guys to see, ranking it by position, grading out, contract status for all the Titans players, where they're at, all that good stuff. And so make sure you subscribe, stackingtheinbox.com. Football and other F words. I know you covered a lot of this stuff with Herndon on this week's show, so go check that out. We will have a Titans Stadium argument on Lamestream Sports coming up tomorrow. A city councilman who is leading the charge against the Titan Stadium is going to make the case as to why he's doing that. Next week, we're going to have somebody on who's pro stadium, and we're going to give you guys all the information you need for both sides to try to make the decision for yourself. So make sure you check out all the other great shows across the network. Oh, okay. I got it all out. Good to see you, Zach.
Good to see you.
I'm ready to go because I wonder.
You look healthier and refreshed. Like you literally have been out, maybe away from your phone a lot this weekend, and I think that it shows. You're glowing almost, and not because the sun's beaming in the window, but
the window over here is always well lit. No, I am one of those people that needs to put the phone down and walk into the woods to like refine myself a little bit. Especially when you take your little kids and they love it out there. So we were wandering around, rock hopping in the mountains of Appalachia, and they had such a great time. I was out there all day, like Sunday and Monday. No idea what was happening in free agency. No idea who the Titans were or were not signing or who they let go. And when we got back into town, I'm just like a frenzy of activity, kind of like in the Welshly Arms Motel with Will Ferrell below the surface. There's a frenzy of activity. I got back and I start trying to organize all this stuff. And sure enough, I go listen to Football and Other F Words, and I get a little bit more information. I listen to the Paul Kaharski podcast. I get a little bit more information. I've formed my own opinions, and I'm ready to go today on the show. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling happy. Stoney Keeley's in the chat as well. He will not be blocked. I will not block you, Stoney. I will not do that. I can ignore you, but I will not block you. All right. Free agency fallout. we've had some moves, not a lot of big ones by the Tennessee Titans. Some small stuff. We'll get to what that means for the offensive line and the front seven. No big name targets yet. I don't think that was expected of us. But in general, from the first 4 days of strategy here, what should Titans fans' takeaway be from the strategy so far from Ran Carthon?
Out with the old and weak and in with the new and strong. I mean, that's pretty much what it is, right? I mean, you got rid of Taylor Lewan, who was really old and constantly hurt. And then you brought in Andre Dilliard, who is younger, more explosive, almost a carbon copy of Taylor Lewan from an athletic standpoint. His build and everything, are kind of you're probably going to look the same out there for the most part. And then you take out David Long, let him go, and you let Nate Davis go, both guys that we thought were going to be gone anyway. And if you weren't prepared, then you're just got your head in the sand and you're not listening to anybody. I mean, you're just like, you're hearing like the Peanuts teacher, rah, 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 and apparently you're reading like Jim Wyatt's mailbag in like hieroglyphics. So you just like missed every sign that none of these players were coming back. And so they got rid of both those guys, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. guys, for sure. I mean, I think that right there just tells you everything you need to know about who that's about. And I think we'll talk about it later, but I think there's another guy who you're possibly going to start hearing some trade talk about later on, this offseason. But all this to say, and it's not Jeffrey Simmons. I was going to say,
does his last name rhyme with Olton?
Yeah. All this to say is that they got guys that will play through injury, specifically Azeez Al-Shaair, who will play through injury. In fact, he has proven that he plays through injury, and in fact, he just basically loves to play the game. And they wanted fast, instinctual guys, and they got fast, instinctual players, and they got violent players because Brunskill is a violent offensive lineman, not just a name, but also in how he plays on the field.
Yes, his name sounds dangerous. There's no question about that. I also think they got versatility as well. A lot of these guys are versatile. There's also some tenders that have happened, which, of course, is what you do to restricted free agents in an effort to protect yourself. Of course, Aaron Brewer, T.R. Tart, the main two. Naquan Jones is another one. We're going to kind of go position group by position group because so far Ran Carthon is clearly addressing the offensive line and the defensive front. We'll get to sort of what those two look like. But to me, in general, I think your basic point of out with the older and maybe less durable and in with the younger and things that I know with Ran Carthon, that's the overall strategy, but I don't think we can learn anything yet from where he wants to go. Now, I think, again, we'll talk a little offensive line, we'll talk a little front seven, maybe picking in maybe some tiny tidbits of things that we can learn about how Ran Carthon wants to approach building a roster. But I think by and large, I saw some tweets over the week, not very often after basically Wednesday, I started looking at Twitter again and I started seeing stuff. And there's lots of sort of like, well, maybe it's a good thing the Titans haven't done a whole lot of stuff. And it does feel like we're just not there yet. We just haven't learned a whole lot about the strategy, the philosophy. We kind of know he wants to attach it from every different angle, but the moves he has made so far were largely very obvious, as you pointed out. I do think 2 years ago, if you'd have told people Nate Davis and David Long would have just been like, they're just going to let him go. I think 2 years ago, people would have been like, man, what happened? Like that kind of sucks. But they both had an injured year for Long and a down year for Davis. And, he's not worth $10 million or $30 million. And that's what they felt about Davis. I still think Davis I think they're both solid players. They're just not necessarily consistent or durable. And they're not Ran Carthon guys. So, but nothing he's done so far, Zach, in my opinion, gives us like a true, like, here's what's happening with the organization just yet.
No, and that's what everybody wants to be the first to make the statement that none of these moves say whether glow up or blow up, and we'll talk about that more in detail, but none of these moves say anything. These are moves you have to make because you made corresponding moves,
right?
And all they've done is just fill holes. I mean, even Luke Gifford replaces Dylan Cole. Azeez Al-Shaair replaces David Long. Daniel Brunskill replaces Nate Davis. Andre Dilliard replaces Taylor Lewan, and Arden Key replaces possibly DeMarcus Walker, maybe Bud Dupree, but I think DeMarcus Walker is the better one to make the comp for. But all they've done is just fill up the holes that they created by letting players that we all expected to go. the funny thing to me is that all off season long, right? All that we have talked about, all that fans on Twitter have talked about, fans on Facebook have talked about, all the national media, the local media, everybody has constantly said this free agent class is the pits. I mean, pretty much. I mean, it's like the most mediocre free agency class to come out in a long, long time. And then free agency tampering day one on Monday. Oh my God. It's like if the reptilian brain came on and they just totally forgot that this is a horrible class, and they see all these teams overpaying and throwing out these big deals, and they're like, oh, where's the Titans? Where's the Titans? And I get it. It's frustrating to see your team kind of sit on their hands. But in the end, you have to understand that, first off, this is not a new phenomenon. There's other teams. Like Dallas Cowboys barely spent anything. And they're rich. I mean, like, they're cash rich. So, like, at some point, you just have to understand that the best thing to do, and even Adam Schefter made a comment yesterday when talking about Orlando Brown on Wednesday. He said, my advice to free agents, buy agents would be, if you don't take your deal day one, you are losing millions and millions of dollars as you wait. And essentially, this is where you're getting the good deals. This is where you're getting the 1-year deals, 2-year deals for really inexpensive and get productive players that, yeah, they're not exciting, right? There's not an exciting wide receiver. There's not really an exciting, realistic option for tight end. You know, they're not exciting, but they're going to be players that make you better than what you were last year. I mean, they're players that are better than Robert Woods and Nick Westbrook-Ikine and Cody Hollister and Chris Conley. There's better players than Jeff Swaim and Austin Hooper still available.
No.
Yeah.
Nobody better than Jeff Swaim. Nope.
So there's still tons and tons of free agents out there that can help this team. And then there's the draft too. So it's the best approach for this team is not to go tie themselves to big ass contracts, because they're going to have a lot of cap space next year and still have good players under contract.
So I want to look at the two big position groups that we've focused on so far, at least that Ran Carthon has focused on before, which is which is the offensive line and the front seven. We'll get to the front seven in a second, but let's start with the offensive line. And we've already talked about the replacements, right? Andre Dilliard is signed. He's a former first-round draft pick. A couple of years ago, he's only 26 years old. He's played 43 games in 3 years, only 9 games started, so has not realized his potential, did not start a game in 2022. 6'5", 315, as you alluded to, similar to Taylor Lewan athletically. This is a guy that was a project coming out of Washington State, but is a really, really talented guy. But this is a moldable piece at a pretty, I guess it looks like it's about, 3 years, 29 million-ish, if you believe reports. Hypothetically, that's probably 2 real years and like 1 fake one. Basically is the phrase I'm going to use to describe that. He is a potential stopgap at left tackle who could start at left tackle should you not address that any further down the road. So they've added him. Left guard is still a big giant question mark depending on what they do in the draft. Aaron Brewer was tendered with a 1-year, of course, second round tag, which means they really view him as a starting center at $4.3 million, or I think you and I probably agree on this, are totally fine with letting him walk if somebody offers him some deal, but that's probably not going to happen.
I think they're going to be fine letting them both walk, to be honest. If there's,
I agree.
Considering on the market of the deal, because if you got to think that if a team is coming in to offer either of these guys and sign them to an offer sheet, it's an out of this world deal that the Titans were like, I'm not really expecting that.
And if the Titans get a second and a third, or just a second out of the deal, then they're totally fine. But the $4.3 million does say that right now Aaron Brewer is your starting center for the Tennessee Titans. So right now Dilliard is your starting left tackle. Aaron Brewer is your starting center. Daniel Brunskill, who put 61 games, 29 years old. This is a guy.
A beast. I've been all up on some Daniel Brunskill since like Ran Carthon was announced as GM.
6'5", 300 pounds. He started every game 3 years ago, and then last year, and then this past year was sort of an interchangeable piece, but again, also very versatile, could play a lot of spots. He's penciled in at right guard, and as of right now, of course, Nicholas Petit-Frere is your right tackle. So real quickly here, kind of rapid-fire fashion, I want you to tell me where they've gotten better or worse should this be the starting offensive situation. Well, so Andre Dilliard is better at everything than Dennis Daly.
Dennis Daly, right, yeah.
But compare him to Taylor Lewan at his age.
Well, Yeah, I mean, he's not an all-pro Taylor Lewan because I think Taylor Lewan made all-pro when he was 26. So, I mean, he's obviously not going to be all-pro Taylor Lewan, but is he going to be Taylor Lewan from last year and the year before? Yeah, I think he could be. I mean, that was a very average Taylor Lewan for Taylor Lewan standards. I think that you're looking for him. That's where I'm at. Like, he's a left tackle. He is your stopgap, like you said. He with the potential to be a long-term solution at left tackle because he is relatively young. And on top of that, he comes from one of the best coached offensive lines in all of football. And he's been under one of the best, Jeff Stoutland, one of the best offensive line coaches since he's been drafted. He knows a lot. He's a veteran for maybe NPF. You're talking about a guy right there that has a lot of potential to be at least average, but at max, a left tackle of the future.
They couldn't put that dude on TV more during the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. Like,
yeah,
the offensive line coach was on TV all the time. I think positionally right now, this group is better than what was starting on the field last year.
Oh yeah, and
no question.
They're
no
probably
question
a little worse in run protection, okay, or run blocking.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Is
but
the
you
pass
can coach that?
So Aaron Brewer's clearly better run blocker than a pass protector, but you can hide him more
guard.
at center. Right.
Yeah.
But at center, you can hide the pass pro a little bit more. Brunskill graded out as a slightly better pass blocker, according to PFF last year, than he did run blocking. Andre Dilliard graded out really, really, really well in the run blocking department, not as much in pass pro. I guess my question for you is, do you see any – these are minor moves. These are to fill holes. So this is about filling your roster and your depth chart here. But do you see anything – because I hear in my head all the time, and I know you were talking about this on Twitter. Who was the coach that was on with the damn Barstool guys that was talking about the myth?
Kevin Stefanski.
Kevin Stefanski was on, and I saw the clip, and he's like, no, it's a myth. You don't need to run the football to set up the pass and play action.
Someone should have fucking told Todd Downing that.
I agree. But what it triggered in my head is draft or sign, whatever it might be, acquire pass protection as a known commodity, because that's still going to be your key to play action pass, and then coach up the run blocking. Am I wrong to think that that's the strategy here, or is that the right
should be your strategy for drafting offensive linemen? Okay, like O'Cyrus Torrence, I'm out on O'Cyrus Torrence. I don't care if he's a good run blocker or not. If you're too fat and slow to be a pass blocker, I don't want you. Your thing. And I think this is where they're going. Your philosophy as a team is to draft really great pass blockers who already know the fundamentals, who already have great technique, who already can stand on an island against some of the best premier pass rushing talent, and then coach up your run blocking. Because run blocking is not as hard to coach and to get yourself up to an acceptable level as pass protection. And at a certain point, the Titans just kind of got away from that. But, I mean, they kind of did, then they kind of didn't, because, what we've all kind of have let fall to the wayside, and I brought it up a couple of weeks ago, is that we still don't know where Dylan Radins' place is. And Jamarco Jones is still on the roster. Is he going to be competing for left guard? Is he your utility player? Because we know he's played tackle and guard. He's cheap. I mean, like, if you cut him, it's like 1.6 mil you save, right? So, like, keep him on, as cheap, and now you have depth. And you have depth as someone that's been in the locker room. I'm a little surprised. I won't say I'm a very surprised, but I am understanding.
Right.
So, and Dylan Radin's still around. Could he be your starting left guard? Like, that's something that people are not talking about right now. Right. And I know that he's injured, but we don't know where he's at in the recovery. But, hell, left guard is wide open.
Right now,
he's be your starting left guard.
Yeah, I mean, right now it would be Radin/Jones if you had to start a team. Like, no, I don't mean like if you had to rate a depth chart. If you
started tomorrow and everybody was healthy,
right? Exactly.
Probably Radins would be your left guard.
This is not a conversation we've had yet, and we'll probably have a lot more time to do it. But I'm curious, how much of a clean slate does Dylan Radins get? Like, I think that's interesting to me, because obviously it's Vrabel, but new front office, new offensive line coach. It always felt a little wonky, the Radins fit for some reason. And so I don't know if there's a bit of a clean slate with him. I mean,
I think
he's a very athletic guy. Like he is
Yeah.
a talented guy. Like I'm telling you, and I think I said this on the show last year, very first day of practice, I looked at Jamarco Jones and I was like,
yeah,
that ain't it. But Radens looks the part, always has, for whatever that's worth. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think he's get a clean slate because I mean, again, you got to listen to what Vrabel said, right? I mean, Vrabel, when mentioning getting rid of the position coaches or bringing in new coaches, they wanted coaches that don't pigeonhole a certain player. And that's what it felt like about Dylan Radens. It felt like that Keith Carter, by the words of Mike Vrabel, felt that he wasn't good enough to be a starter and that he wasn't going to waste his time trying to get him to be a starter. Okay. And we have known from PK, his interactions, thinks that Dylan Radens has no fire. And then we know that Keith Carter, according to Taylor Lewan, runs practice and is way too strict and just like really beats down his players. I'm telling you, I think he's got a clean slate, and I'm telling you, if he's healthy and
kind of agree.
he could be a starter and a solution. They got to address the offensive line still through the draft. They can't just go in, and it's kind of like wide receiver. You can't just go in hoping and praying that either A, Dylan Radens, or B, Jamarco Jones becomes the left guard.
Yeah.
Or if Radens is the left tackle and Dillard's the left guard, whatever. You can't go in praying that that's going to happen. Like you can't go in hoping that it's Racey McMath and Kyle Phillips. That's why I've always said you need 3 wide receivers.
Yep.
So at this point, you still have to draft for the future. But this offensive line as a whole, for what the team needs for going forward, it is better than what they had last year for 16 games, for sure.
Well, and I'm looking at Nate Davis's grades because I wanted to just double check, but Brunskill graded out significantly higher as a pass blocker than Nate Davis did last season, just comparably, but worse in a run blocking standpoint. So, but in that way, philosophically, you can make the case that that's an upgrade on the pass protection at the right guard position. I think Ben Jones is too good to just say that Brewer's an upgrade, but he's probably an upgrade in the running game. I
think he's an upgrade in just durability. I mean, let's be honest here. Aaron Brewer and Ben Jones up until last year was great, but Brewer is less of a liability to get a concussion again, like Ben Jones was. But he's younger, more athletic, faster. You are seeing them get faster. Like that's ultimately what this all is.
And you're technically improving his pass blocking by moving in positions, right? Like that's what's happening is you're increasing his pass pro by moving him from guard to center.
And you're letting him get a lot because he doesn't have a lot of experience at center. But his body type is perfect for center. It's not great for a guard. It is fine for a center. And yes, you may have to hide him. But I really don't think you have to because I think that once he gets comfortable getting off the snap, I think you'll be fine.
And Dilliard, of course, is an upgrade over Dennis Daly because you and I would be upgrades over Dennis Daly.
My God.
At left. So as of now, they've plugged a couple of holes. They've tendered Brewer, which probably means he's the starting center at this point, and they still could draft all 3 positions in the draft, but we'll get to strategy in just a second. Let's look at the front 7 then, and is this group a better group with, you have to include Harold Landry returning, assuming Jeffrey Simmons doesn't hold out. TR Tart has also been tendered, which again, $4.3 million. I heard you guys on F-Words debating his price point. I think probably 6 or 7 million is about right.
That's kind of where I'm at.
I know Mike. It's funny in your conversation, Mike started at about 10 million. He got down to 6, 7, 8. But let's say it's 7 or 8 million, and if he gets offered that, the Titans are probably not going to match it. I think he's a really, really important piece. He's a really good player. But if you are going to rely on development, this is why I love the Arden Key signing. If you are going to rely, and oh, by the way, Brunskill, a 49er, so Ran Carthon knows all about him. He also knows Arden Key from a year in San Francisco as well. He was behind.
And he would have been the guy that would have scouted to bring in Arden Key, by the way. So I mean, that's as director of player pro personnel, that would have been his job to say, hey, I think we could do something with this Arden Key. Chris Korshek, what do you think? And he's like, okay, yeah, I could do something with Arden Key.
This is a pedigree player from LSU, a Power 5 guy, big-time recruit, a third-round draft pick who kind of bounced around a little bit with he went Raiders, and then San Francisco, Jacksonville, but he's had 11 sacks in the last 2 seasons. He played behind, of course. lots of pressures played, and especially against the Titans. Played behind Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker last year for Jacksonville. So not only do you sign a piece to help with depth after losing DeMarcus Walker and Bud Dupree, but you also take a depth piece away from a division rival. And the deal doesn't seem. It seems like I don't know what's come out yet, but it's probably a 2-year prove it deal with a lot of escalators. We haven't really seen it yet. What the numbers are.
Hasn't missed a game the last 2 seasons.
Exactly, 17 and 17. Only 3 games started, but that's pass rushing is a rotational piece. I guess Tart's interesting. If somebody offers him the moon, you take the draft pick. We're going to get to the blow up thing here, but part of their strategy with the tendering of Brewer and Tart is to say, look, if somebody wants to offer him a lot of money, we'll take the draft capital and we'll continue to draft young players.
What's the Lamar Jackson situation, right? It's like, okay, you think your market's worth more than what we're offering you because like NWI, who turned down his offer, that they, according to Paul Kaharski, which they were like, well, we're just not even going to waste tendering you because we know there's no market. They kind of get a sense that, hey, they may have a market. We're not as sure on them. They may have a market. Let's put in a little tender on them. And if nobody picks them up, and that lets you know, and that lets the agent know and the player know, you overvalued yourself, kid. You need to take this deal that we have on the table and let's take it now. Because there's already a deal on the table. And I wish I would have brought this up with Mike. 2 times he's said this. He said in a podcast in the chat, but there's already a deal on the table. So $4 million is not the starting point. The starting point is the deal on the table if you want a long-term deal. Now, they could turn down the long-term deal, but hey, guess what? Titans can also rescind that tag, right? Like, they can rescind it just as quick as before they could sign it. Like, that's how quick it could happen.
Well, and if you look at what both of these guys, I mean, they're obviously looking for T.R. Tart in particular is looking for a bigger payday. But if you look at where they both were, like Aaron Brewer made, like, we're talking like $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. Like last year, T.R. Tart made $895,000, $780,000 before that, $300,000 before that, $100,000 before that. All, as a UDFA, he's made 2.1. This would double his entire career earnings in 1 year just to even take the tender offer. So that's a bet on himself should he take it. Now, if he does, and I think there's a pretty good chance Brewer definitely is here. I think there's a pretty good chance Tart is here because I don't know if anyone's going to overpay for him. But if you look at the front
seven, he does
have
Drew Rosenhaus working for him, so that is a plus in his. That's why you have an agent, because your agent can do a lot, and he has a powerhouse agent.
So let's package Arden Key sort of replacing Walker / Dupree for now. Again, for now, because the 11th overall pick is still there. Azeez Al-Shaair, of course, who is 25 years old, 6'2", 230 pounds, played 56 games in 4 years, 21 games started the last 2 years. Pretty team-friendly deal. Also feels like a replacement for David Long, but a larger player, just physically a larger player. If you look at where this front seven is today, assuming Tart and assuming Simmons, is this team better off today? Is it worse off? Does it need to be more of a focus in the draft? Where are you with this front seven right now?
I think it's better where the replacements are at, right? Because like we said, Arden Key is the least available, right? I mean, that matters a lot. He's a good player, but at least he's available. And then you got Harold Landry coming back on the opposite side. Rashad Weaver is depth. Then you have in the middle Monty Rice, Zach Cunningham, Dylan Cole. They're all the same player to me, so there's no change there. But I think Azeez Al-Shaair is at least with this defense and this defensive coordinator, I think that you're going to see in the playing time a just as good version, if not a little bit better, in pass protection because of his length and his athletic ability than David Long. And then I think that everything on the front is the same. I mean, Danico Autry, T.R. Tart projected to be here. Even if he's not here, that's fine. Christian Fulton, Roger McCreary probably will be better because of the coaching change with Chris Harris. So, technically, this defense, I feel like, got a little bit better. And maybe it's not like some great big thing, but I think the pass rush is a little bit more dangerous than what it was last year, which then in turn takes pressure off your defensive corners and your defensive backs. And you're asking a lot less of the guys in the back, the safeties, and all that stuff, because you're generating more pressure.
I think a full season of Key, Weaver, and Landry as a trio is better than Walker and Dupree, even if you got 17 games out of both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So again, you don't do that. Also, here's the other thing with Tart and Walker to consider. Walker got a pretty nice payday, by the way, from Chicago. Why did he get that payday at his age? Because Mike Vrabel and the guys developed him. Why is TR Tart's pretty? There's some pieces of his game that's not coachable. He needs to get credit for some of that, but some of it's Mike Vrabel and the boys developing him.
Right.
Like Arden,
he's a UDFA for a reason, right? I mean, like maybe he should have gone in the 6th or 7th round, but you're talking about a guy like 6th round pick, David Long, UDFA, T.R. Tart. Though DeMarcus Walker was just kind of like floating around in amenity. It's not
good
easy
for
me to say.
I know what you mean.
But basically, these guys are only getting paydays and getting recognized because of Mike Vrabel. And that's what I said about David Long. And I've been saying that for a while, is that, like, what are the chance? Now, he did go to a Vic Fangio defense here. So, like, I mean, he went to a good defensive coordinator, but he doesn't seem like a Vic linebacker. Like, the people who were so upset that he left, and I'm thinking it's just going to be like Jayon Brown. It's just going to be like Avery Williamson. They're just going to be guys that left, and you probably will never hear from them again.
I mean, I've stood next to all three of them. I did radio show with Avery Williamson. I've stood next. By the way, Avery Williamson might have been bigger than all of them.
Yeah, I think he was.
I was next. I've stood next to and talked to all three of those guys, and they've gotten progressively smaller.
Yeah. Well, the last linebacker that left, everybody's like, "Whoa, this could be like when they let Stephen Tulloch go." But did that hurt anything, letting Stephen Tulloch go? No. And that was also like 8 years ago? I mean, like, if that's the closest linebacker that you got is Stephen Tulloch, who went on to play for the Lions and played pretty well, I think you're doing all right with your linebacker assessment.
So Al-Shaair is 3, maybe 4 inches taller, probably 5-10 pounds heavier. Also a San Francisco guy that Ran Carthon knows fully well. Both very good.
He had a part in drafting him. I've read a lot of reports about that.
Very good against the run, the way David Long was. So you're kind of doing a like for like swap there. Not surprised that Long only went for $11 million. I think that's maybe where fans are kind of going, well, for $11 million, we couldn't have kept him.
Linebackers are the running backs of the defensive free agency. Like they don't get paid a lot. I mean, Tremaine Edmonds got paid a shit ton.
Yeah.
He's also like a shit ton better player than David Long.
Yeah, yes. I think Davis for that price point, Walker for that price point, there's no reason to even try to match those deals. Could you, because middle linebacker is such a black hole right now, because you don't like what's behind Al-Shaair, maybe you could make the case to have some negotiations.
They're not happy with what's behind him, because there's reports that they are also pursuing Denzel Perryman as well. So,
which dude at his best is one of the better players.
And he would probably be in like I would say he has a chance to beat out Monty Rice and be next to Azeez Al-Shaair, but he could also be a rotational, like Wesley Woodyard at the end of his career kind of player. Like, he's kind of he's in some downs, he's out some downs, he's in some downs, he's out some drives. Like, to me, that should let everybody know that they are not satisfied with what is behind. They're either not satisfied with Monty Rice, or they're not satisfied with what's behind Monty Rice, or they're just not satisfied with the linebacker room as it sits, regardless of who it is next to Azeez Al-Shaair.
I don't know why you would be satisfied with that linebacker room. How about this? Can you move draft strategy? I'm going to do draft strategy now. I know we were planning on doing something different, but I want to do draft strategy now because it plays into all the things we're talking about here. And I think the most important thing, and you said this, I'm paraphrasing you. I'm not quoting you, but I think all of this is like just foundational building block offseason stuff. This is just, we've got these holes. I know these players. We've got some cap to work with. Let's start building the roster, filling in the small pieces, piece by piece, to make sure we know exactly what we're working with as we head into the draft. That we talked about this on the last episode that you and I did last Thursday. There's a lot of different depth at certain positions. Corner, offensive tackle could be in play at the first pick. Nothing has changed. Linebacker and guard could be in play with the 41st pick, or tight end. Nothing has changed. I don't think
it's less. I think it's like less predictable, right? I mean, like if you look at every mock draft, like even my mock draft, it was like Paris Johnson, Peter Skronsky, Paris Johnson. Like, I mean, it's just all Paris Johnsons. Now, it's going to be a little bit less predictable. I mean, you free yourself up to trade back, okay, and not miss out on a top tier talent if Paris Johnson ends up leaving. You don't feel the need. You now are able to take best player available on the board. I mean, that's just pretty much what it boils down to. Is that like, if Paris Johnson is still there, there's a very damn good chance that they're going to take Paris Johnson. Andre Dilliard is not going to prevent them from drafting Paris Johnson. Azeez Al-Shaair, if Jack Campbell's still there in the second round, or they trade back, he's not going to prevent them from taking Jack Campbell. The same is going to be made for any of these guys, any edge rusher, top tier edge rusher, any cornerback. It's basically like when you look at Christian Fulton and Roger McCreary, you could totally talk yourself into taking a cornerback at 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
None of these players changed that for the position they got signed.
No. To me, what this, and I think you've kind of already said it, and I'll just explain it the way I've thought about it in my head, which is they are no longer position desperate. That's it. That there were a few positions where you could argue they were desperate and needed to fill some holes, and that's why we focus so heavily on those positions at those draft slots. Now, do they still need a tight end? Yes, they absolutely still need a tight end. There's another linebacker? Probably so. Another guard? Probably so. But like they're less desperate because they went out and signed 2 potential starting offensive linemen and then tendered Aaron Brewer. They are just less position desperate along the offensive line, which therefore gives them more flexibility to do whatever they want to do at 11 and 41. The trade back now is a very real possibility. I still don't think receiver is a possibility. But to me, it's either zero effect or a net positive effect in that it allows for you to decide what you want to do and take the value where you see fit and be more flexible. So this is just filling needs, and now you're less desperate. As far as
and that's what free agency is supposed to be, right? Like free agency is supposed to fill the obvious holes with veteran players that can at least buy you time while you draft young guys and develop them and get them ready. And if they're ready day one, great. If they're not ready day one and they can only be rotational pieces like an edge rusher or a cornerback that's switched out with Christian Fulton if he still happens to be on the team, like all that stuff. That's the proper way to do strategy. You should not go into the draft with a glaring hole.
Unless it's quarterback.
Yeah, because I mean, but you have to have the number 1 overall pick, right? Like that is essentially the thing is, they're at 11. They don't have the number 1 overall pick. Going to number 3, I mean, I don't know where you're at now I have a hard time picturing. First off, apparently the Colts are not sold on any. It's still going. The Colts are not sold on any quarterback, and their words of Chris Ballard kind of alluded to that. And now you're hearing that again from people in sources from inside the building that they're kind of like now talking about Lamar. They're bringing in Gardner Minshew. They're not really sold on it. So like you don't have to worry about trading up to 3 necessarily to get there, but to me, trading up to 3, and we talked a little bit about this on Monday, trading up to 3 means that you're okay, like you have said, with Anthony Richardson at worst. And you're hoping, though, that CJ Stroud or Bryce Young crazily fall there. But also, if you trade up, and let's say that you do not believe in Anthony or Richardson, then you are believing in Will Anderson and Jalen Carter. Or Will Anderson pretty much at this point.
And Bijan Robinson.
Jalen Carter.
Probably you trade up to 3.
Oh, if you're trading up to 3 for a running back,
I'm fucking with you. I'm fucking with you.
Yeah, fucking kill me. But I think that is what that says, right? Like that says that, okay, at number 3, it's either the quarterbacks or Will Anderson. And you have to be okay with trading draft capital for an edge rusher. And I don't.
Not in this class.
With that.
Not in this class.
Yeah, not in this class. I still think Will Anderson is above and beyond the best one.
Yes.
And maybe that does help you. Maybe getting Will Anderson with Arden Key, Harold Landry, that lets you bring in Harold Landry. Bring him in slow. Jeffrey Simmons.
My pants are my pants are tighter just thinking about it, but not giving up all the draft capital is not good.
So like to me, this is where that's just kind of where I'm at. Like I'm not really feeling that there's a trade up. I think that trading back is the best way to go. I mean, they're obviously not going to be done with free agency. They're going to be reports will be, slowly matriculating in. And we'll get some more players, fill some holes, and then we're going to look at this team and say, man, they put themselves in a really good position at the draft.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. It gives them a lot of flexibility with what they've done. Titanic's got a great question. We're going to get to that in a second. Of course, Kevin Byard is rumors swirling about Kevin Byard.
I do have the video if you need that.
So we'll get, maybe we'll have to play that for everybody. So we'll do that in just a second. I want to tell everybody about the Kingston Group first, though. BuildKG.com is the website, Nashville's locally owned custom home and remodeling firm. If you are building a house, making renovations decisions about your house, selling your house, buying a house, any of those things, just talk to the Kingston Group first. Again, locally owned and operated here in Nashville for over a decade. They are award-winning, and they keep everything in-house. No general contractors outsourcing this to that job and this part of the job to somebody else. You can trust the entire process, all contained with one company. That is why they're award-winning, and it's why people in Nashville have trusted them for over a decade. BuildKG.com. That is the Kingston Group. Just remember the name. That's all I want you to do is just remember the name, the Kingston Group, and an announcement coming up on Monday. All right. Titanic says what, and this kind of goes into our next topic, which is sort of a glow up versus a blow up. And Kevin Byard, I think you're onto something here with how we're going to define blow up. But Titanic says, why does everyone think Titans will be worse than last year? Easier schedule, less injuries, good coach, better players. Don't get it. Now you've kind of agreed with him for the better part of this conversation. Now, I'm not really answering your question, Titanic, so I apologize. But I am going to set you up to define blow up. And while I think they are 65, 70% of the way down the road of a quote-unquote rebuild, use whatever term you want to use, because you've changed coordinators, you've changed front office, you've let a lot of the big-name free agents or faces of the franchise go. If Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Kevin Byard, those three, how many of those three have to go for it to be considered a true blow-up?
2. It has to be 2. When it was just considered Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, only one needed to go for me to be like, okay, maybe it is, but still either one of those players could still play you out of, and Mike Vrabel will coach you out of with these players out of the first overall pick. Like, they did a beef of the week on Music City Audible for the pharmacy, and Justin Graver, Titans Film Room, went on this big, huge rant. The video's out now on the Twitter and everything. And it was the most ridiculously mind-numbing rant that I could ever come up with and see, because it doesn't make sense at its core. Because at the core, Mike Vrabel would have to want to blow it all up and lose games. Mike Vrabel would have to want to do that. And we have over 15 NFL years, probably closer to 20 if you want to include, it probably is 20. I guess he joined like 2004 or something. I don't know. Either way, over 15 years of data about Mike Vrabel as a person that's going to tell you that he does not want to lose a game. He will do everything in his power not to lose a game. Now, can he prevent it like we saw in the 7-game losing streak? No. Injuries. Dennis Daly. Just really close games. It's not because he did it on purpose, right? Like, the other stuff came out around it. This would have to go terribly bad, right? If it's Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and Kevin Byard still on this team week 1 of the NFL season, there would have to be some people that lose limbs for them to go on a big losing streak and lose enough to get the first overall pick.
Well,
and whoever gets the first overall pick probably does not have a quarterback.
No, and normally what you would say is, well, what if because we know in the NFL every player is going to fight their ass off to keep their job. So even if you're right. But the way you get around that and avoid the tanking thing in the NFL is, as a general manager, you just put shitty players on the field. Now, your response to that I can already predict would be, but if that's what's happening, then Mike Vrabel has signed off on it, as I believe what your response would be to that.
How do you sell that? Because, like, we've only seen really one team tank in a game, and that was the Eagles game a couple years ago where Frank Reich set a bunch of people, and they just purposely – was it Frank Reich?
Doug Peterson.
Crap.
Doug Peterson.
They came up with a 1-year deal for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. I thought I was rid of his ass.
All right, there we go.
Just got announced.
All right, let's talk about it.
Oh my god!
I think Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is a wonderful fifth receiver.
Well, that's what he needs. I guess he said, "I guess I gotta go test the market." And this picture of Nick Westbrook-Ikhine that they used
that was not a long test.
But this picture that they used looks a little photoshopped here. But to me, it's just like Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is just. I'm sick of it. Like, I was hoping that he would just be gone.
Why do you not like him? He's a good player.
No, he's not.
I don't think he's a wide receiver 1, 2, or 3, but he's a solid wide receiver 4
out
or 5.
With the old, in with the new. I'm out on.
I disagree.
He's nothing. Well, he's nothing that they want. He's not versatile. No. He's not violent, and he's not fast.
I think he's dependable. He's durable. He can play on special teams, and he can fill in when all your other non-durable pieces get hurt. But again, if we're arguing about wide receiver 5, then we're missing the problem here.
Well, then wide receiver 1 through 4. His snaps need to reflect wide receiver 5, even when people are healthy, because that's not what he's been. Even when people are healthy, his snaps have not reflected that.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Got to do more. This does not count. I said they need 3 wide receivers. This does not count as one.
I agree. This is the same guy who's already on the team. Like, this doesn't count as a new face.
Yeah. I can already know that my group chats are all blowing up because everybody hates Nick Westbrook.
I know. Here's the thing: if Tannehill with Aaron Rodgers going potentially to the Jets, it feels like that deal is going to get done at some point. There is very little chance. We were already at a pretty low chance, but now we're at a very, very, very low chance that Ryan Tannehill is somewhere else. He is going to be the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. Whether they restructure the deal, extend it, whatever, doesn't matter. He's probably here. Could they still trade Derrick Henry? Absolutely. Could they still cut Kevin Byard, which are the rumors, of course, that have been floating around with some of the NFL reporters? Could he also extend his deal to change the cap hit and move it around? I know you've got an example of another team doing that.
Say something real quick. And I love Jim Wyatt. But every time they put out an article that says the Titans have agreed to terms with such and such player, he never has the numbers. None of his fucking articles ever have the numbers in them. And he knows what the numbers are, could get that information. It's makes me fucking furious every time I click one of these articles.
Here's what Jim Wyatt knows. When to not write some shit in an article. Jim Wyatt, I've talked to him about it. I have talked to him about it. He knows exactly where the line is. And nobody tells him what he can or can't write in the Titans facility. He just knows where he's not allowed to step. He knows.
Why are they being secretive? It's going to come out anyway. Give me the fucking numbers. That's all I want.
You just want to do it on the show. It's okay. It's okay. I think if Derrick Henry is gone and they do not restructure or they do not extend Tannehill, meaning that he's gone after next year, right? To me, that's still a blow up. I still think it's a complete blow up of a generation of Titans football, which involved John Robinson and Taylor Lewan.
I mean, I agree with that, but that doesn't affect your roster. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it could affect you going up to get a quarterback this year, though. If you know Tannehill is done after this year, and you want Anthony Richardson, for example, or even in the second, Hendon Hooker or some shit, like whatever, like pick a name. If you attach a quarterback to this roster this year, knowing Tannehill's gone next year, that's part of the blow up process. It's just happening in the future.
Yeah, I just don't think it's I view blow up. I view a team that is like gutting every bit of their roster, and it's like what the Panthers did. The Panthers gutted a bunch of players, and they held on to Brian Burns, and they held on DJ Moore for a year, and then they traded DJ Moore. But that was it.
I don't like saying this out loud in a public forum, but Stoney is correct. Stoney is correct. It can be a glow up and a blow up at the same time. Because you're right. If Tannehill is still here this year, they're going to be competitive.
Right.
And they're trying to compete to win the division, even though Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence are better than you think they are.
So maybe there's a difference between a glow up, a blow up, and then we'll come up with something other than tank, but a tank. So like maybe there's three stages.
Yeah, there's no chance they're ever going to tank. Like it's hard to tank in the NFL. You can tank in other sports. It's hard to tank in the NFL. But
the Texans weren't even trying to tank, but they had their coach screw him out of that first round pick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but here's the deal: like They are so far down the road of a rebuild, retool, reverb, reorganize, whatever you want to call it. It's just an evolution. It's the next phase of Titans football. They are so far down the path of that if they were to trade Henry and cut Byard, it's a full-blown new generation of Titans football. But that does not mean that they're not going to use the assets freed up from those moves to stay competitive. To me, it's just the turn and the churn of the NFL. Like, that's all this is. It has to happen. You got to get younger, faster, cheaper at every position all the time. That's it. That's the name of the game.
Except for wide receiver.
Don't fucking talk about wide receiver 2, NWI. Don't talk about it.
I'm just saying. And here's another narrative that I've hated and about this whole offseason is that you got to have veteran experience in the Titans locker room at wide receiver. Why?
Why at that position?
I don't know. It's like you got to get a veteran wide receiver. You don't have veteran wide receiver, and like everybody's touting like when Nick Westbrook-Ikine wasn't tendered and they let him go, everybody's like, man, he was a veteran presence for that locker room. Nick Westbrook-Ikine, like, hello, let's take a step back and slow down here.
I already miss the mountains of North Carolina. I will say if you have Malik Willis and Josh Dobbs as your 2 starting quarterbacks next year, it would be nice to have some veteran pass catchers. But that's a different story.
It would be nice to have a quarterback. As far as where I'm at on this heat check, nothing's changed until we see Ryan Tannehill at least 2 of the 3, and hell, it may have to take. You may need to throw Jeffrey Simmons in there too, and do 2 of the 4. Until we see 2 of the 4 gone, I'm out on thinking that this is going to be a losing season and that Vrabel is just going to like sit back and not do anything.
Is that sort of how you're defining the difference between the two? Is that glow up involves?
Well, no, I already said. I just said, well, we'll have to find a different thing. To me, it's not a blow up. It's not a true blow up without at least 3 of those gone. I mean, like 3 of the 4 or 2 of the 3. Yeah. If they're truly trying to get assets, like, that's the thing. You have to trade them. Now, if you go and wait until June and then you're like, I'm cutting Ryan Tannehill and getting Lamar Jackson, that's still not a blow up.
No, it's just it's the evolution.
Yeah,
it's all it is. Now, if they had fired Mike Vrabel, that would be a totally different conversation. But the head coach is still there. What's next right here? What's next for this team? Who's next?
Kevin Byard is next if you want to play the clip.
Oh, well, let's play the clip then. Roll the tape, baby.
In the secondary, Jesse Bates, who played on the franchise tag this past season, is now unrestricted. Jamel Dean is an interesting corner. James Bradbury, who we've talked about, he wants big money in free agency, as does Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who I thought was one of the kind of chess pieces for the Eagles defensive back group this past season here. Which of these corners do you think is the best option for a team to pursue?
I think Chauncey Gardner, because he gives you some versatility. Dean, he can get called for defensive holding almost every play. Plus, that rush in Tampa really helped him. So Bradbury's his own corner for me. I mean, if somebody pays him, it's got to be the right system. It's all scheme fit for those guys, right? So, and Jesse Bates is a good player, but to me, I think when Byard, the kid at Tennessee, right? Kevin Byard, he's really a good player. They're trying to get him to take a pay cut. So would I sign Bates? If he doesn't take a pay cut, they're going to cut him. So if I sign Bates, do I go after? I would rather have Byard than Bates. I think he's really a good player. So you got to kind of play that around a little bit. You got to wait.
Oh, Kevin Byard. Wow, that's an interesting one because he's a former All-Pro. He's a heck of a player.
He's a really good player, but they're trying to get him to take a pay cut. He doesn't want to do it. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road. Who's, are they bluffing? Are they not bluffing? I mean, they got cap issues. I mean, that team's in a mess. That team's in a mess. So
well, it looks like Zach is no longer with us. I'll say this.
I'm here. I don't know what's happened here, though.
First and foremost, I will say this. The fact that Michael Lombardi's a really good reporter, the fact that it always takes every single national person like 4 tries to get Kevin Byard's name right is just like he says all kinds of nice things about him. All kinds of wonderful, beautiful things about Kevin Byard. And they still can't. Oh, the kid in Tennessee. Like they still can't get the guy's name. Like the broadcast can't get it right. I don't understand that part of it. Where is Zach?
I'm here. I'm here. If you can hear me, can you hear me?
I got you. You keep talking, big guy.
Well, I mean, the problem is that like that was like 47 or 48 minutes into the thing, and he's trying to get to Vegas, right? So like he's trying to get to Vegas. So like, yeah, he was trying to say Kevin, but he didn't get to Kevin. That's no big deal. No big deal. But anyway, I've kind of been on this train for a while saying that they got to do something. And now listen, he even mentions that this is probably a ploy, that this is probably nothing and nothing to worry about and all that kind of crap, right? Like it's a negotiating tactic, which I tend to agree because, I mean, surely they're not going to cut him. If anything, you would trade him. But Harrison Smith today, Ben Gosling of the Star Tribune said that Harrison Smith, who is staying in Minnesota, the Vikings reach a new agreement that will keep the safety with the team. The reason that this is important is because, like I've said, he's on an expensive contract, Kevin Byard, and a lot of people have pointed and talked to this Harrison Smith deal, saying that this is the reason that safety deals are so out of whack.
Yeah.
And he got his extension in 2016. Byard got his in 2018 or 2019, I think. So looking at this deal, here's where they're at. The cap hits for Harrison Smith, 2023, $19 million, 2024, $19 million, 2025, $22 million. And they know they have to change that, and they've changed it to try to keep him with the team. And that's what the Titans are doing. They're trying to get him to change the parameters of the contract, of the bad contract that John Robinson created, and they're trying to make sure that they keep him here long term. And if they don't, they're going to have to figure something out because they got to get out from underneath this contract.
I agree. Now, I will say, and Titanic's already said this, is this the same guy who loved J-Rob and had a meltdown when he was fired, not buying it?
I don't know anything about Michael Lombardi. I mean, a lot of people had meltdowns about J-Robs.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'll say. He said Titans are not – he said the Titans are kind of in a mess. Now, I would not call it a mess, but I would call it a lot of moving pieces with a lot of future unknowns. They don't know what the future is at quarterback, at running back, at safety. Simmons has got to be a contract re-signed. You got a new coordinator, new half your staff, and a new GM. It is absolutely a time of flux. Now, do we like all the moves they've made and the strategies and how they're doing it? So far, so good. But we haven't played any games yet, so there's no way to know. And they still have a lot of questions along the offensive line and the receiving core that we don't know if Tim Kelly's the answer at offensive coordinator. We just don't know. And so it is a bit of an unknown. And if you want to call it a giant mess, I'm not going to take offense to that point. I think Mike Vrabel is a very good housekeeper. I think he can clean shit up pretty quickly. So we'll see about that. Is there any other big free agent move coming in your opinion? Like, is it just restructure the deal, save some money, or is there something else coming there's nothing really on the wide receiver free agency. Is it a tight end? What are you thinking?
Well, they need tight end. They need wide receiver for sure. And I think they still, in this market, I think they need a third down or a complimentary running back. And I'm telling you, would have been all over him last year if they let him hit free agency. In fact, both these guys, I'd be all about Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson, because you don't miss out on a guy that can't run through between the tackles, but can pass block and give you something extra into the give you something extra when it comes to the passing game. So I'm all about. I know you could draft one too. I'm not sure where I land on Hassan Haskins. Like, I'm not giving up on him, but it's like Kyle Phillips, Racey McMath, and Jamarco Jones, and Dylan Radins. He's not a guy that you need to go in. He's got to have competition. You can't go in and just be like, okay, well, maybe Hassan Haskins will turn into something.
To me, it's almost dictated on what you do with Henry, right? Like, if Henry gets traded, then Dontrell Hilliard is not the guy you go sign. Right. You probably need a Damian Harris.
Dontrell Hilliard should not be the guy that you tie yourself to.
No. But if you keep Henry, then I like a guy like Hilliard.
But you can get better than Hilliard. I mean, I keep telling
probably.
You that
I know
is,
probably.
That's not probably. It's like statistically possible. It's like legit possible for that to happen.
I like that nobody can see how angry you get at me right now. That's what I like, because I'm sure you're rolling your eyes at me a lot when I say things, and as is the case. And I like that no one can see that right now. All right. Do you want to touch on this Georgia thing, or is there anything else you want to add to the what's next?
No, Christian Fulton probably gone. Like I put the chances of him being traded by the time the season, like I'm fairly certain that he's going to be traded before it's all said and done.
Summer, like before the draft or before the season starts?
I don't know. He's going to be traded. Here, I'll do before the season starts. Or listen, hey, I'm going to give myself all the way to the trade deadline.
Well, here's the deal. Like, it's not too early to start thinking about this. Nico Autry, Christian Fulton, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill. There's guys that are going to be contracts that are going to be available to cut next year. So, or move on from, or not re-sign, or those are all, you got to start thinking about those names now. Don't think that Ran Carthon's not planning for that, which of course he is. That's his job. All right. Since you're not available and you're not with us, let's save this Georgia conversation because Jalen Carter's doing just weird shit. His draft stock is plummeting. But there's a theory about Georgia defensive players that we'll save to when people can see your face. How about that? Sound good?
Well, we'll do it on Monday.
We'll do it on Monday, along with our special announcement. So make sure you tune in on Monday. Of course, a football show across every platform. Turn on all of the notifications. Of course, you got Twitter. You can see us on Twitter. You can listen to us on the podcast app. Of course, anywhere you get your podcasts, YouTube, Facebook as well. We do appreciate the Kingston Group, of course, our great and amazing sponsor. All you folks that have chimed in the comments, we love talking with you guys. Follow them on Twitter at FWordsPod. And of course, the Football and Other Efforts podcast with Mike Herndon, as well as Mike Herndon's writings all over paulkarski.com, which is also where you can hear the Paul Karski podcast, a part of the 440 Sports Network, which is this here network right here. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. We do appreciate it. For Zach, I am Braden. This has been a football show.